I want justice for Daniel. Why would you throw away his clothes and delete messages and not even call his mother?
This is not how I wanted the world to meet my son, but here we are. So, as you know, I'm Christine Wells-Wansley. I am Nolan Wells' mom. And
two 18-year-old black men, two states, almost 1,000 miles apart, 2 nights out with people they trusted. And, in both cases, the people they were with came back without them. Why did both stories involve a phone that went missing and turned up with something deleted from it? Why, in both cases, did investigators land on the same word, accidental, while both families said the story doesn't add up? Why did both cases pull in the same civil rights attorney, the same accusations of a cover-up, the same demand from grieving parents for someone to explain what actually happened in the hours after their sons went missing? And why, in one of these cases, did it take almost 3 months? But police finally made an arrest? 2 people who were there when Daniel Erving went under the water never called for help. Not his mother, not 911. They got rid of his clothes. They threw his phone out of a moving car. And when detectives finally caught up with them in July, one of them admitted, on the record, to deleting every message he'd ever sent to Erving because he knew an investigation was coming. That's confirmed. That happened. Meanwhile, in Mississippi, Nolan Wells is still waiting on answers. No arrest, no official cause of death, just a sheriff's department asking the public for help and a family that isn't satisfied with no foul play. Both cases are still open, and a lot of the biggest questions haven't been answered yet. Stick around and hit subscribe if you want to catch it when they are. Let's go through exactly what's confirmed, starting with the day Nolan Wells didn't come home. Nolan Xavier Wells was 18, a 2025 graduate of Ocean Springs High School on the Mississippi coast, and a wide receiver who'd gone on to play football at Southwest Mississippi Community College. On July 3rd, Wells had dinner at home with his family, then went out to spend the night with friends ahead of the holiday. The next day, he joined the group for a boat trip out to Horn Island, a remote, federally protected barrier island about 10 miles off the coast. No shelters, no facilities, no cell service once you're out there. He'd made this trip before with this same group. Photos from the boat that day show him smiling, arm around his friends. In nearly every image, he's the only black person in the group. According to friends, and later the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, Wells was last seen on the beach around 3 p.m. The group says he chose to stay behind, expecting to catch a ride back later with someone else. One friend's mother, whose son was also on the trip, said her son last spoke to Wells around that time and that the boat had a mechanical issue with the bilge pump before it left the island without him. The group got back to shore that afternoon. Wells wasn't with them. Hours went by. Around 11 p.m., one of the friends called Wells's mother, Christine Wansley, to tell her Nolan hadn't come back. She and Wells's father, Elmore Wansley, started trying to reach him immediately. In the early hours of July 5th, Wansley posted to Facebook asking for anyone with information to come forward. She and her husband drove toward the island themselves, and she says they were the ones who tracked down Wells's phone using location data before investigators found it on their own. The search that followed pulled in the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, Mississippi's Department of Marine Resources, the Gulf Islands National Seashore, the Coast Guard, and the volunteer group United Cajun Navy. The Coast Guard logged an official search bulletin at 12:26 p.m. on July 5th. Wells's father went out that same morning with Wells's former coach to search on his own. They found nothing. On July 6th, a body was recovered near the northwestern tip of Horn Island. Sheriff John Ledbetter said it was believed to be Wells. His mother confirmed his death on Facebook shortly after, thanking the community and asking for space to grieve. The real mystery isn't what happened after Wells died. It's the gap between 3 p.m., when friends last saw him, and whatever happened before his body turned up 2 days later. Investigators say they're still trying to piece together that stretch of the island. The sheriff's office has repeatedly asked the public for any unedited photos or video from that day, specifically anything showing an argument, a disturbance, or Wells himself. That request exists because of a video already circulating online, appearing to show Wells raising his voice at someone on the boat. Family attorney Ben Crump referenced the clip directly, describing what he understood as Wells and another person yelling at one another, and said investigators had told the family they saw no evidence of foul play, despite that footage existing. One friend, Triseston Shepard, later said publicly that the voice everyone assumed belonged to someone confronting Wells was actually his own, not evidence of a fight. Then there's the phone. The details vary slightly depending on who's telling it, but the main facts stay the same. Wells didn't have it with him when he was last seen. It ended up back on the mainland instead of staying with him, and his family found it before police did. Once his mother had it back, she said his Snapchat had no saved photos or video from that day. Unusual, she said, since he normally documented trips like this. Crump has said messages had already been deleted by the time the family got the phone back. Investigators haven't explained the missing content. Sheriff Ledbetter has leaned toward accidental drowning in his public statements, based on witness accounts that Wells stayed behind expecting a later ride. But he's also said more than once that the case remains open and is being worked like any other. No official cause of death has been released. A toxicology report is still pending, and the family has arranged an independent autopsy in Washington, D.C., funded by Colin Kaepernick. Ben Crump is representing the family, and Reverend Al Sharpton has appeared alongside them, calling the case one that does not smell right. A comment tied directly to Wells being the only black member of the friend group, and to Mississippi's history around race. Ledbetter's early comment that he didn't suspect foul play without further explanation is part of what fueled that distrust. A funeral has been scheduled at the Mississippi Coast Coliseum and Convention Center in Biloxi. No charges have been filed against anyone in this case.
Good morning. I'm attorney Ben Crump, along with attorney Lisa Park, attorney Eric Hurts, Justin Preston, and Cliff Jones. We have the honor of representing the family of Nolan Wells. We have present with us his mother and father, Christine and Elmore. We've just had an opportunity to meet with District Attorney Angel McElgrath and some members of her team. We had a very respectful meeting. The thing I assume some of you may know, the thing to announce, she shared with the family that there will be a grand jury that she will turn this case over to once they have collected all the information and finished their investigation. We also agreed that we will have a mutual inspection of the cell phone with our experts and their experts. Attorney Eric Hurts is helping lead the investigation team with former law enforcement experts who are going to help us with the cell phone download, so everybody will be able to see at the same time what the cell phone has. We also talked about trying to make sure we dot every I and cross every T. I know that we're getting about 50 calls a day to 100 calls a day from people who were there on Horn Island, people who are familiar with individuals that were there on Horn Island. And so we continue to be steadfast in trying to get to the truth of why Nolan Wells is dead.
Hello everyone. So the homegoing celebration, the funeral will be held at Centerpoint Church in Ocean Springs. It is going to be, visitation will be 9 to 11, and then the funeral will start after that. The plan is for the repast because, again, we want to celebrate Nolan. And he would not want us to be sitting around crying and eating. And so what we're going to do is kind of have a party to celebrate him, and that'll be held at the Jackson County Fairgrounds. So we really do want to keep it for family and friends. We are going to allow media to come in as well. And lastly, I just...
His teammates.
Oh, absolutely, teammates. We've already contacted Coach Les George because we want to make sure that those guys are there. Former teammates from high school, middle school, teams that he played against. You guys are all welcome, but of course, we want to make sure that our families for sure and close friends get there. So I do want to just say, for those of you, again, if you are having protests, even the day of his service, I am asking you guys to just keep it peaceful. Nolan would never want any type of violence or anything like that. He was not that kind of person. So if you guys would, again, just be peaceful. And to the community, thank you so much. Just the outpouring of love, support. We've had some local officials. Mayor Casey Vaughn from Gaucher has reached out to us. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. He has, it's almost been every day. He's been texting to check on us. Also, Jeffrey Hullum, thank you so much. He's been texting pretty much every day. Receiving a lot of stories from Nolan's teachers, which just warms my heart, his classmates, teammates. So again, for those of you who have donated to the GoFundMe, once again, I stress, if you are not financially able to, we're not begging for that money, okay? If you're not financially able to, we understand. We thank you for whatever you can give, but if you cannot, if you would, just keep us in your prayers. And to his friends, stay strong, and please just take care of your mental health, because I know this is a lot. It's a lot for us, and I know you guys are feeling some of that too. So thank you all.
Now, on the other hand, Daniel Erving was also 18, an honor roll student and a member of his high school swim team in the Dallas area. On April 13th, he went to Lake Ray Hubbard with 19-year-old Lucas Roper and a teenage friend. According to the arrest affidavit, the three jumped from a railroad bridge near Miller Road into the water. Erving went under and didn't resurface. Roper and the younger friend didn't call for help and didn't report what happened. Instead, the affidavit says they dumped Erving's clothes in a tree line near the bridge, drove off in Roper's car, and threw his cell phone out the window at some point along the way. Erving was reported missing that same day. The Rolette Police Department led the initial search. His mother, Tameka Erving, says investigators told the family they couldn't ping her son's phone until after his body had already been found, citing privacy restrictions. 4 days later, on April 17th, his body was recovered from the lake. Because the death happened inside Dallas city limits, the investigation moved from Rolette Police to the Dallas Police Department, which has led it since. The Dallas County Medical Examiner ruled the cause of death drowning, manner accidental. Dallas police say that conclusion followed witness interviews, evidence collection, and coordination with the ME's office. For almost 3 months, there were no arrests, even though, according to the family's attorneys, both people who were with Erving when he drowned had been interviewed within days of his death. That gap became the family's biggest source of frustration, and the same for the Next Generation Action Network, the civil rights group led by Dominique Alexander that took up the case. In June, the group sent Dallas Police Chief Daniel Erving an open letter demanding real updates. The family says the urgency they were asking for simply wasn't there, and the silence made them fear the case wasn't being taken seriously. That changed in early July. Detectives said they'd found evidence that the two people at the lake failed to report what happened and later got rid of Erving's belongings. Erving's recovered phone showed a record of texts and calls with Roper from that day. When detectives checked Roper's phone, Every message between the two of them had been deleted. Roper told investigators he did it because he knew there'd be an investigation and didn't want to get in trouble. On July 9th, Dallas police arrested Roper, now 19, and the teenage friend. Both were charged with tampering with physical evidence, a third-degree felony in Texas. Roper was released on a $10,000 bond. Neither has been charged in connection with Erving's death itself, only with what they allegedly did afterward. The arrest didn't settle anything for Erving's family. At a news conference organized by the Next Generation Action Network, his mother and the family's legal team argued that what's in the affidavit doesn't read like an innocent accident. Attorney Sean Derridia has pointed out that Erving wasn't a struggling swimmer. He was on his high school team, described by his family as strong, healthy, and completely comfortable in the water. Their question is simple. If this was really an accident, why hide the clothes? Why leave the scene? Why get rid of the phone? Why not call anyone, including his own mother? Tamika Erving has said a person who did nothing wrong doesn't respond to an accident by destroying evidence and deleting messages. The family and their attorneys want the Dallas County DA's office to take the case to a grand jury for murder, not just tampering. They've also criticized how long it took police to arrest anyone, given the suspects were reportedly interviewed within days of the drowning back in April. Attorney Jeremy Rosenthal, a legal analyst with no connection to the case, has pushed back on the idea that a murder charge is realistic based on what's public so far. Proving homicide, he says, would require evidence Roper and the other suspect actually caused Erving's death, not just that they covered it up afterward. A guilty conscience isn't proof of a killing. Dallas police and the DA's office have both declined further comment, citing the active case. A fundraiser has been set up to help with funeral costs, and Ben Crump has since joined the family's push for accountability alongside Next Generation Action Network. Put side by side, the parallels are hard to miss. Both were 18. Both died in water within a few months of each other in 2026. In both cases, the people who'd been with them left without them, and in both cases, there was a delay before anyone alerted authorities. Hours for the Wells family, months before anyone but Erving's own family raised any alarm about what actually happened in the water. Both involve a phone that went missing with something deleted from it, though the direction is flipped. Wells's own phone disappeared and turned up wiped. In Erving's case, it was the suspect's phone that got wiped, and he admitted to doing it himself. Both carry a racial dimension that shaped the public reaction, with Reverend Al Sharpton speaking to it directly in the Wells case, and the Next Generation Action Network framing the Erving case the same way. Ben Crump is now involved in both, and in both, the families have rejected the version of events on offer, one demanding murder charges instead of tampering, the other funding an independent autopsy and challenging a sheriff's early read of no foul play. The Erving case has an official cause of death. The Wells case doesn't. No autopsy result, official or independent, has been released, and toxicology is still pending. The Erving case has actual charges filed, even if the family thinks they don't go far enough. The Wells case has no arrests and no charges at all. It's still an open investigation, with the sheriff's office actively asking the public for information. And what allegedly happened afterward isn't the same at all. In Erving's case, investigators allege active destruction of evidence, clothes, a phone, deleted messages, one suspect admitting it outright. In Wells's case, there's no allegation that anyone destroyed anything. What's unresolved is a video that turned out to be misread, and a stretch of time on the island investigators still can't account for. Wells's high school coach, Jake Bramlett, said he carried himself with humility, treated people with respect, and led by example. His father had one rule for group outings: stay with the group, which is part of why Wells staying behind that afternoon has weighed on his parents so heavily. His mother has called him a special soul who was always trying to lift other people up, and has asked for privacy while she keeps pressing for answers. Erving was an honor roll student and a competitive swimmer. According to his sister, he'd been preparing to enlist in the military. She said it feels senseless that this happened to him, and that the response from investigators felt too slow. His mother wants justice, and she isn't willing to accept an explanation that doesn't answer why two people ran instead of trying to help. Both families have gone public rather than grieve quietly, which is a big part of why these cases have gotten the attention they have. Wells's family, backed by Sharpton and Crump, Erving's by Next Generation Action Network and their own legal team. For both, a lesser charge or a ruling of accidental is the start of the fight, not the end of it. In Texas, the question is whether the Dallas County DA takes the Erving case to a grand jury for something beyond tampering, or whether it stops at the charges already filed. The family says they're not backing down until that's decided. In Mississippi, the next real developments are the independent autopsy in Washington, D.C., and the state's own toxicology results, either of which could back up the sheriff's early read or send the investigation in a different direction. The sheriff's office is still asking for anything: photos, video, first-hand accounts from Horn Island on July 4th. So after everything laid out here, what do you think is the biggest question investigators still need to answer? Drop it in the comments. And if you want to know the moment either case moves, hit subscribe. We'll keep digging into both as the real news comes out.